Welcome back. You're still watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. At the ongoing two sessions, China's achievements were warmly welcomed, but participants were more in tune with the nation's pressing challenges. Looking to 2019, it's necessary to sustain healthy economic development and maintain social stability. But how to do it well with the least side effects? What's the best strategy? And what can we learn from the achievements of the past years as the economic environment becomes more and more complicated, to say the least? In our special series, Weigh In Two Sessions, I got answers from Professor Bai Chong'en, a CPPCC member who's the Dean of the School of Economics and Management from Tsinghua University. He was a former member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the People's Bank of China, China's central bank, and also he has done a lot of studies on taxation in this country. Let's listen in. What do you think, Professor Bai, are some of the principles that the Chinese economy should really look at closely?
I think an important principle is to enhance the quality of economic growth and economic development. In 2018, we have adopted some measures in that direction. I think that's something we should insist on. One direction is that we should let the market play a bigger role. A concrete example is how much government-driven investment should play in the economy. And for example, infrastructure investment in 2017, it grew at very fast pace. It grew by 19%. In 2018, the growth rate dropped. I think this was in the right direction. And we probably could have done it at a better pace. And so this is one example. The other example is that we wanted to control the risk in the financial sector. So we adopted many measures to enhance regulations, financial regulations. And again, this is in the right direction. These regulations are necessary to control the risks. But again, we probably could have done better in controlling how fast we introduce these regulations.
But there's another thing, Professor Bai, as you may know very well, the role of the state-owned enterprises and the private sector. Right. And of course, Chinese President Xi Jinping made it very clear that both fronts should be working together and advancing together. Right. But Professor Bai, what can we learn from 2018?
I think President Xi, when he met with private entrepreneurs, what he said was great encouragement to private entrepreneurs. That is, private sector is a very important part of the Chinese economy, and the private sector made important contributions to China's development. So these are very encouraging words, and what we need to do more is to put these policy directions into practice. If they can get more equal access to land, to capital, and then they will feel that they can play a bigger role in the economy, then they are willing to make more investment. That will be a positive development in improving the quality of our economic growth.
But Professor Bai, for our international viewers, what exactly is the state of, for example, the status of these private companies in China, and how is it, in a way, fitting into China's overall system? Probably they need to have some reference to understand the debate that you are suggesting here.
State-owned enterprises play big roles in providing some of the more fundamental needs of the economy. For example, infrastructure investment. It generates a lot of social value. These social values are not completely captured by the firms which are making the investment. So their state-owned enterprises do play a bigger role. But private sector respond to market needs much more promptly. They are more responsive to market movements. So in consumer products, they do they play a big role in some of the technology sectors because these new technology do need flexibility, and private firms are more flexible in making adjustments. So they play a very big role in some of the tech sectors in China. So then their concern is that, first of all, when they try to acquire capital, it's more difficult. They also pay higher costs for capital. When they try to acquire land, it's also a bit more difficult.
And especially now, Professor Bai, that is only one of those examples as to once issues are being identified,
right,
how fast will policies follow up,
right,
and how fast will a mechanism with the right setup be able to follow up to make sure the policies will be further implemented, and not just for the short term, but also for the longer term.
Right. In the longer term, I think we need to really recognize how important private sector is in the very long run development of China, and they will keep playing a role, probably a bigger role in the future. So this kind of role should be well recognized by the whole society. And private entrepreneurs worry that some people don't view them with a positive light, and so they are concerned that these views may become dominant, then they get into trouble. So we need to form a consensus in the society that private sector play positive roles.
According to the latest government work report delivered by Chinese Premier Li Keqiang today, China plans to adopt a market incentive mechanism instead of economic stimulus policies to encourage the growth of the economy. Tax cuts are one way to grow industry and commerce, as mentioned in the government work report. As a former member of the Monetary Policy Committee of People's Bank of China, who had long done studies on taxation, Professor Bai Chong'en shared his thoughts about this development. Professor Bai, you've been doing research about China's tax system for decades. Tell us what exactly is the key issue here if we're going to see a fair system.
If you compare the burden of different types of tax and fees faced by Chinese firms with their international counterparts, the heaviest burden is that of the Social Security contributions. And we did some, a lot of people have done comparisons, and this is, from the numbers, it's very clear. Social Security contributions, especially pension contributions, are very heavy burden on enterprises and on employees. And one of the reasons is that we have these legacy burdens. When we created the pension system, a lot of the retired people at that time started to benefit from the system without contributing earlier. So that was a legacy burden. And this kind of legacy burden shouldn't be borne by future generations in the sense that they pay higher fees. That creates higher burden on enterprises, on individuals. We can find other ways. For example, one very important feature of the Chinese economy is that our government owns a lot of assets. One study finds that 27% of the assets of the whole society is held by the government. This is very different from other countries. We can better use these assets. For example, we can use these assets to solve the legacy burden of the pension system, so that the burden is not borne by current contributors to the system. If we do that, we can have a more moderate levy
And of course, China, over the past 40 years of reform and opening up, Professor Bai, has become such a strong nation when it comes to national GDP.
Right.
Therefore, China also share its outcome with the rest of the world.
Right.
But of course, there's also internal debate as to how much China should contribute
right.
to the growth of the others, and of course, as a result, to benefit itself as well.
Right.
So how do you see this country weigh the two different sides and balance it? On the one hand, the national wealth, partly contributed to it by tax system. On the other hand, China's contribution to the development worldwide, which of course itself is an important member of it.
Right.
So how do you see China weighs these two different sides of the issue?
China emphasizes mutual benefits. Everybody should benefit from trade, from investment, etc. There are areas which was necessary in China when we started economic development in the late 70s. As the economy grows, we need to adapt to the new environment.
Give me some examples.
For example, subsidies. Some of the subsidies were probably necessary before when the market system was very rudimentary. But as the market system improves, the market can play a bigger role in allocating resources. Then government allocation of resources can be cut down a little bit. And this is not only good for China itself, for our economy itself. It reduces distortions in the economy. It also mitigates some of the concerns that are raised by our trading partners. So this is something we can do that is that's mutually beneficial. So this is one area. On the other hand, I think our trading partners probably should also do better in their domestic policy. For example, I believe almost every country that does business with China benefits from the engagement. But how the benefits are distributed among citizens in our trading partners is a very important issue.
If you look at the year 2019, it's going to be a big year in a way.
Right.
You see a lot of things going on at the same time. China-U.S. trade negotiations, which might set an example as to how the biggest economies in the world are going to deal with one another.
Right.
And for the others as well to follow.
Right.
Secondly, you got the reform of the World Trade Organization. That is the trade body that the rest of the world has been enjoying growth as a result of.
Right.
Meanwhile, you also see China's own structural reform of its own economy. So you got three things going on all at the same time, not to mention other elements in geopolitics. So Professor, I know you are giving advice to the government. You are a CPPCC member. What do you think are the most important things and principles held in mind for this very challenging year?
I would think there are two areas that are really important. One, domestically, we really need to continuously improving the quality of our economic growth, of our economic development, and no matter what happens in the international arena, if we have better quality of growth domestically, we stand a better chance of dealing with these shocks. And I think the direction is clear. That is, let the market play a decisive role in allocating resources. So that's agreed by a lot of people. It's also a very important part of the government policy goal, and that's domestically. And I think in the international arena, a key issue is how the world should respond to China's growth, and how China should play a proper role in the world when our size grows, when we become a significant player, when our actions have impacts on other people. I think China needs to adapt to its enhancing role in the world. The world also needs to adapt to this. And I still firmly believe that China's growth creates a lot of opportunities for the rest of the world, and China's growth can benefit not only China, but other countries as well.
Is there a risk of decoupling?
If the world doesn't handle this well, if the world focus too much on the possible negative impact on the shock of the Chinese growth to the rest of the world, but ignoring the positive impact, then we are, that would be very sad. But I think the whole world needs to work together to find a way so that we can peacefully develop together.